band is back together. I love it. And congratulations to Kevin Woodley and David Hutchison for keeping things together. I'm a little worried about my job right now, but that was fantastic the last couple of weeks. Just listening to you guys and going through the great interviews and all the hockey talk. And I had some FOMO going. It wasn't fear of missing out. I was missing out. I don't know what the technical description of that, but Kevin and David are with us today as we bring you InGoal Radio, the podcast brought to you by The Hockey Shop, source for sports Langley, thehockeyshop.com, our feature interviews. We have two feature interviews, Arturs Silovs and Samuel Ersson. Arturs Silovs. I'm getting my head around that. I watched him play in his debut. I watched him make his first win. I'm pretty excited about him.
Sixth Latvian. And we'll get into this with him, what it means to him to be the sixth Latvian goaltender to make the NHL from Latvia, which is a big deal. But did you know, Darren, there's another milestone with Arturs having his first win in the National Hockey League, significant to InGoal magazine.
What is that?
He is the first goalie to make his NHL debut and win an NHL game, having made his professional training camp debut in the NHL. And his Ontario Hockey League debut later on that same fall, wearing InGoal magazine equipment. Arrived from Latvia with a set of CCM pads that were so well used, so beaten up, he could feel shots off the face into his shins. They did not have his size because back then with Vancouver, this would be 2019, so 4 years ago. I believe Jacob Markstrom was the only Canucks player wearing CCM, and Marky had a lot longer legs. Demko was still in, Brian's hadn't switched. They didn't have anything that he could wear. Like, they didn't have a CCM pad. We just happened to have a demo set in somewhat matching colors, different shade, but blue and a little bit of green trim. Loaned it to him. He wore it all through training camp and into his first couple months in the Ontario Hockey League. So the smallest of roles in Arturs Silovs' development to NHL goaltender, played by InGoal magazine. And the good news is none of my bad juju having worn those pads myself rubbed off into his game because he looks pretty good so far.
Those need to go on the InGoal magazine office wall somewhere.
The office wall of fame.
Yes. Has to happen.
I know where they are. I'm going to have to track them down.
Oh, yeah, you still have them? Nice job on that. That's outstanding. What a great story of just paying it forward in the goaltending community.
You know us, we always like to help, and it never hurts when you help guys at that level because they tend to do things like, I don't know, the day after your first NHL win, after a really long practice that had my legs hurting just watching, sitting down for 20 minutes and talking about the experience like he did with us today for this episode of the podcast. So paid it forward to us.
I'm excited to hear from Samuel Ersson because we've watched him and we've seen him playing in the National Hockey League. I didn't know a lot about him, so this is going to be fascinating for me, a very learning experience.
For me too, and appreciate the Philadelphia Flyers giving me some time with him. It was a game day, post-morning skate. Not as much time as we would have liked. And I'm telling you, as Hutch said, he listened to the interview and I was kind of,
he's good.
Yeah, I wish we had more time with him. So let's consider this a preamble. Really nice kid. Liked a lot about his game. Did some video that we're hoping to go over and share at InGoalMag.com, the InGoal Premium Edition, with some drills that he was working on. So, let's hope that this is the first of several interviews down the road with Samuel Ersson, because I know the Flyers really like him as well.
23-year-old and a 21-year-old. They feature interviews this week on InGoal Radio, the podcast. The feature interview is brought to you by Sensorina VR. So we got the trade deadline coming up. Time to focus in a little bit. We are looking for some diamonds in the rough because the big names this year just aren't there when it comes to trade deadline potential.
You want, here's one for you. I'll give you one, a name that I'm not sure many people have paid much attention to. Jonas Korpisalo. I believe Corpy's on a really low ticket, might be $1.3 million right now. His overall numbers on the season don't jump off the page, but don't forget, he's coming back off of I believe double hip surgery. He at least had one hip done, might have been double hip surgery. So a little bit of a slow start from him. From December 9th on, his adjusted numbers in the National Hockey League, he's almost plus 2%. And like that's better than Sorokin, Shesterkin, Jake Ottinger. Like he has played some really good hockey over the past couple of months, almost like he had to sort of, I don't say relearn, but get comfortable with a body that was actually functioning fully and properly because he'd been fighting through sort of the effects of the hip injury. And we know how that affects the groins and your lower body and a lot of your power, for a couple of years. And so this is a guy that's always been viewed as having a lot of upside, having a game that should fit the National Hockey League in terms of his lateral mobility, his patience on his edges. And he just hasn't been able to make it translate at a consistent level. But for the last, like I said, December 9th, so we're coming up on over 2 months here, he's been one of the better goalies in the entire National Hockey League. He's on a friendly ticket. He's an expiring deal, UFA. Like for all the focus on, say, Karl Vejmelka with the Arizona Coyotes and would they move him, I think Joonas Korpisalo would make a lot of sense for, not that there's a deep list of teams looking, but for the ones that are, he'd be high on my list.
Beat the Dallas Stars in his last outing. Took out the Western Conference leaders in the Dallas Stars in Korpisalo. So that's really interesting. I knew he was on a friendly ticket, but I didn't realize the numbers were that positive.
Yeah, and like I said, adjusted numbers. So Clearsight Analytics, we're accounting for shot quality here. Obviously, a team that's struggling a fair amount. But he's been really, really good. Another guy who's on a bit of a heater over the last couple months, especially since the calendar flipped to 2023. He's an RFA at the end of the season. And this is a little back padding by myself because when I was asked by the Arizona Coyotes, Craig Morgan, who covers the team, sort of if they were looking for a second goalie and they needed one this season off waivers, who would they look at? My number one target was Connor Ingram. We saw the 47 save shutout, which is a record for your first shutout against the Tampa Bay Lightning. How about going 47 save shutout into the shootout against the Tampa Bay Lightning for your first shutout? And Ingram, since the calendar flipped, again, another guy whose numbers are off the charts good. Took him a little while to get comfortable in Arizona. Obviously not an easy team at times to play behind, but the Coyotes are rolling and he's been a big part of it. He's been really good there. RFA, you got to think the Coyotes would like to keep him. But let's be honest, they're kind of selling everything else. So, there might be a team interested. Just, whether it's trade deadline or not, there's just a guy that I think a lot of people have overlooked that is having a really strong second half to the season. And I got one more for you, Darren, and this is not trade deadline, but this is just speaking of guys we're not paying enough attention to. Philip the Bus Gustafson. You think the Ottawa Senators regret trading this guy to Minnesota? As much as I know Cam Talbot's injured right now, but he's been good for Ottawa. Gustafson's got the second highest adjusted save percentage in the entire National Hockey League. Trails only Linus Ullmark. He's ahead of Saros, Sorokin, Vasilevsky, Ottinger. Like he is killing it right now. And that's a guy that I think a lot of people overlooked and saw as more of a throw in the other way so that there was a goaltender going back to Minnesota. He has been small sample, under 600 shots still, but what a season he's having for the Minnesota Wild.
He's pushing for the job right now.
I was just going to say small sample, but unlike Korpisalo, where you were saying that's fairly recent, he's been doing this through the whole season. He's not been flying under the radar.
Well, I don't know that anybody's putting him in the cat. Like, I don't know anybody's talking him in the same sentence as Ullmark, Saros, Sorokin, and Vasilevsky, and that's where he is statistically. And that's what I mean by flying under the radar. Hell, even within his own team, he's not like he's the everyday starter.
No. Yeah, sorry, Woody. I just meant the numbers were pretty high all season long. I wasn't saying not flying under the radar. This statistically.
Yeah, he's had a hell of a year.
Well, we know what the Minnesota Wild think of Marc-Andre Fleury. They started them last year in the Stanley Cup playoffs over Cam Talbot. So there's an allegiance there. And Philip Gustafson is still taking time right now from Marc-Andre Fleury. So he's won that over with his play.
Can I give you one more guy, like especially second half heaters?
Yeah.
Our boy Jeremy Swayman is killing it. Linus Ullmark is still my Vezina guy, but Jeremy's play in the last couple months has been off the charts good. Again, over that period of time, some of the best numbers in the league adjusted, and it's given them a chance to rest Linus Ullmark. And it'll be interesting to see because Ullmark's adjusted save percentage remains number one in the National Hockey League. But because he's not playing as much, he's not piling up the goals saved above expected, which is obviously cumulative. So you see Saros in the Vezina debate. Saros has actually passed him on the cumulative numbers, but on a per shot basis, nobody's been better than Linus Ullmark. And I think I'll be curious to see where the Vezina voters come out on this. To me, it's still Linus, but sometimes workload counts and goals saved above expected counts. And I'm really curious to see. It's almost like Linus could get punished because his playing partner is also playing really well, especially sort of in the last month and a half or so. And if you're the Boston Bruins, what a problem to have, because not only do you have two good options, but you've got the ability to make sure both of them are fresh heading into the postseason. Nobody's going to be worn out. And it would suck if that costs Linus a Vezina trophy. But if it ends with him more rested and the Bruins winning a Stanley Cup, I think that's a trade-off they take.
I've got one for you. Can I get in on this game?
Yes, you can.
All right. Kaapo Kähkönen. The last 5 starts, I was just, because he played Vegas and he was outstanding against Vegas, so I did a deeper dive. He actually had to leave his start before that. He got wonked in the head and had to leave that game. But his last 5 starts, save percentage, and this isn't adjusted. I'm not fancy enough like Woody, but he's 900, 947, 923, 950, and 919. That's pretty good on a team that's not known to be really, really tight defensively.
That's a hell of a run. Like, his overall numbers on the year are not pretty adjusted as well, but that's a hell of a run. And I happen to watch chunks of that game against Vegas, Darren, and it was like, because somebody said, somebody basically called him Kakko Hasek, like he was that good. And there was moments,
and that creative, like he was diving over.
Yeah, like there was a lot of brilliant moments within that game, certainly. And like I said, it's interesting, right? Like, as Hutch said, Gustafsson's been great all year. Some of these are more smaller samples, but I think it's when you start to see those 4 or 5 games become 10 to 15 over a couple of months. And I think in Korpisalo's case, it's because we know what the pedigree is. We've seen him do it before, but also because the injury, right? Like, so that it's been going on long enough now, since early December. And you
can explain the early half stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can also explain some of the inconsistency of the last couple of years. I don't know how much. I haven't had this conversation with him, but my understanding through people close to him is that, that the hips were a problem and it affects everything. And so, it's almost like a reset for him physically. And now that he's sort of comfortable and adjusted to a body that works properly, man, like we're seeing a lot of that patience. And we've always seen the flexibility and the athleticism, but just his edge work and his ability to hold edges, in a game that is so dynamic east-west, to me, that's one of the most important things. And good for Joonas Korpisalo, because, I think there were a lot of people that wondered, where did he even get a contract this year? It goes back to Columbus, not a great team, and he has a season like this. So good for him.
That description of his game and getting his body healthy sounds a lot like the conversation that I had with Laurent Brossoit, who's been recalled from the Henderson Silver Knights with the injury to Logan Thompson in Vegas. And Brossoit said he couldn't do the splits the last couple of years. They couldn't get into that position. There was different spots that he couldn't get his body to navigate because of the hip injury. And now that he's had the surgery, he's back. He's doing the splits in the middle of practice, like during coach's explanation of a drill. And I'm like, now you're just showing off. Now you're just like giving it to the rest of us who aren't flexible enough. But very similar story of now he can do things that he could never do before.
Yeah, I couldn't do the splits. Welcome to my world, LB.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about that T-shirt that the guys used to want to get, Hutch, when we're up at Net 360 for LB. Laurent Brossoit, LB. I know this is a PG rated show, so I'll just use the syllables F and U, because every time there was a drill or an exercise that Adam Francilia, the trainer, wanted them to do, and other guys couldn't do it or struggled with it, LB would just hop in and rip it off like it was no big deal the first time, like he'd been doing his entire life. He prior to the injury, was just an absolute beast physically. And so every other goalie was like, FULB, FULB. And to the point where we wanted to get a T-shirt where everyone had a T-shirt and everybody's T-shirt said FULB. And then LB's just said, I'm LB.
He's strong as an ox.
Oh, yeah.
And he's ripped like a North End bus seat. But the flexibility wasn't there in the past, and now he can get into this position. He said, I don't even use the splits when I play. I just like to do it, and now I can do it again. So that's awesome. Hey, we almost had a goalie fight the other night.
Hutch,
What did you think of John Gibson?
Hutch, I thought you weren't going to tell him about our little battle.
Oh, yeah, I know.
You guys,
we have to one day.
You guys meet at center ice. I'll be the judge anytime, and I
would run. I would run. I would use my speed. I'm pretty sure I'd be faster than Woody. I'd just get away.
Everybody's faster than Woody.
But Felix Copley took the challenge from John Gibson, who crossed center ice.
Got held back.
Yeah.
I wish the referees had let him go. Not that I want to see anybody get hurt, but they're fun. It's fun. And Phoenix, who, by the way, another good story this year. Good for him. But man, he was running hot. I don't. Two things. I don't know that I would have wanted to be on the other end of him when he's running that hot. And two, what a BS. Pardon me, Hutch. I did not like the game misconduct for throwing punches with the blocker. Those were not punches. He's just a little rabbit. I didn't like that.
I like punches with the blocker.
Yeah, I
didn't get a chance.
Pretty standard. You're done though. Pretty standard. You're done.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was more like it wasn't like a full swing. It was like a little rabbit under a scrum. He couldn't get it off fast enough. That's why you don't wear the blocker strap, I guess.
Those punches with the blocker are actually hard to land because it's so awkward because the board's up top.
Got to account for where the blow.
Yeah. It's overrated the real danger of it because nobody practices that. Trying to take goalies off the hook on that, but it would have been interesting to see. I loved John coming out at center ice and slapping his stick. Let's go.
Phoenix Copley's last fight. Can you name it?
Ooh, no.
Against the guy a lot of people would like to see actually drop the gloves in the National Hockey League. Binnington and Copley, who played together with the St. Louis Blues, dropped the gloves at center ice in the American Hockey League.
Really?
They did. And like I said, I don't know how strong the relationship is, but they played together and were teammates. And it's my understanding that they're I don't know how close buddies, but they're they know each other pretty well. There's no animosity there, but heat of the moment in a game, gloves came off. There we go.
It wasn't while they were teammates, though.
No. It was
okay. That would have been a really good story.
Yeah, that would have been even better. No, I think it was the year Binner was on loan to, and maybe Copley was in Hershey, so he'd moved on as well from his St. Louis days. They both moved on. I don't know if Binner was in. I want to say San Antonio. I think it was San Antonio Hershey.
I think goalies, even if they know the other guy, they're fine to do it because you're hoping nobody gets hurt, and it's just a spectacle, and the boys love it. I think that's the where it goes. So that means you guys can fight.
Ding, ding, ding.
Hutch, let's go.
No, I'd get hurt. Woody would get hurt because all you have to do is just graze him with a blow and it would be like the end of time. So maybe I actually would win it. He'd probably just think that.
Yeah, I know, but don't forget, Woody's snaptastic.
Oh, no, yeah, but I'm stealing your foam roller and I'm hitting you with that. I'm not hitting you with my blocker. I'm hitting you with your foam roller.
And you wouldn't think that getting hit with the foam roller would hurt, but I got the vibrating kind with the giant lithium ion battery in it. So that would really be tough.
Hey,
okay, this is going off the rails, boys.
What do you think of Freddie Anderson's mask in the Stadium Series?
Gorgeous. If you haven't seen it, make sure you check Jordan Borgino, J-Bo Airbrush on, I hope I said your last name right, Jordan. On Instagram and Twitter, we posted links to it on our various. We try not to I know a lot of we should probably post more of the images ourselves. We try not to take all the images and post them. We try and link them so you go check out the actual artists. Of course, Jordan was the guy who did Carey Price's Mechanical Skull. He's doing all of Jacob Markstrom's masks with the flames, and there's just been some absolute sick ones there. And not to much like Arturs Silovs. The InGoal crew played a little role in this. Freddie was looking for some ideas because he wanted to mix it up and wanted to do something big for the outdoor game. Jordan's was one of the names we passed along. They connected. Dave Freed, I think he's got a mask coming from Dave Freed as well when he's back with Carolina for the regular season. But this thing is, what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the Alex Auld Montreal Canadiens mask.
Oh,
from a distance.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Right? Like from a distance.
One of my favorites.
Yeah. From a distance, all you're seeing is the logo. Like big and bold, that's all you're seeing is the logo. But when you're up close and you see the detail, it's crazy sick. It was an Angels and Demons theme, but there are hidden messages. I didn't know, I should have known, Freddie's that guy. He details and goal. He likes to geek out on goalie stuff, right? That's why he gets along with us so well. There are actually Prison Break, if you remember the show Prison Break, where the guy had tattoos all over his bodies that were actually keys and symbols to how to get out of the prison. Like he would have the prison map sort of tattooed in different ways. There are hidden messages throughout this mask that only Freddy and the painter know about. Little sort of maps and guidelines, kind of like Prison Break style. So tons of detail. I love that idea of from a distance, I see, you know, a logo or something iconic. I know what it is, but then up close, I could watch this and look at details on this thing for probably hours.
Those called Easter eggs? Is that what the kids call them?
Easter eggs might be so old that it's not even the kids anymore. That's what the kids, guys like us who think we know what the kids say.
You could have just went along with it and made me feel cool.
No,
it's definitely Easter eggs.
We're old.
Thanks,
I would
Hutch.
call it Easter
Thanks,
eggs.
Hutch. I'm cheering for you in the Battle Royal at center ice.
I'm here for you, buddy.
against Woody. We've got the gear segment coming up from the Hockey Shop, source for Sports Langley, thehockeyshop.com. What's going on over there?
Lots of things. Make sure you check them out right now. We've done the True PX3 Catalyst. They got lots of that inventory in stock. And now, as Cam's going to tell us about, you've heard about the Warrior G6 with us. We've talked about the Warrior G6, but you couldn't actually get the Warrior G6. They have it in stock, all different levels, senior pro, intermediate, and down to junior. And as Cam's going to explain, even in the junior model, they have that hard plastic slide plate on the knee, which will help you go east-west, zippity-doo-dah, super fast. Just a couple of many items that are starting to arrive at the Hockey Shop. We're sort of gearing up for spring. We're gearing up for all the new arrivals from all the brands. These are a couple of ones, like I guess G6 isn't new, but it's new to you being able to get it. PX3 is new. Got lots of new stuff coming in. Make sure you check them out at the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com. Keep your eyes out as well. Tendy Fest will be back this summer at the Hockey Shop. Keep an eye on all their social media for details and an announcement on dates. I know them, but I'm not sure I'm supposed to say yet. And when Tendy Fest is going to be this year. It's a can't miss event. And they got some great things lined up for this year out near their new location in Langley, British Columbia.
That was awesome. My first Tendy Fest right before COVID was amazing. It's so much fun. We got to interact.
Got to come back, Darren.
Yeah. Put me in there. I'm all over it. It's the gear segment presented by the Hockey Shop, source for Sports Langley, thehockeyshop.com with the Warrior G6.
Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, source for sports. We're out here in Cam's Crease, Cam's Corner, our little section of goalie utopia. Off to the side amidst 34,000 square feet of hockey
awesomeness.
There we go. And speaking of awesomeness, you might be wondering to yourselves, why do you have the Warrior G6 line in front of you? Did you not review this? God, how long ago was that?
May?
I think it might have even been earlier.
May of like 2022?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay. So, why do we have it? Because they have it. The reality is it's been hard to get. There's a good story there. Not one we're going to tell here, but maybe on the podcast, folks, you can listen in and tune in as to why this exciting line took so long to get here. They had limited stock before. They've now got a lot more stock coming in, including Cam, not just senior. We've got intermediate and we have junior.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just go over, for those who don't remember quickly, the highlights of the G6 line, starting with the slide plate.
The slide plate. Basically, one of the kind of hotly talked about topics, for like the gear market release of this like previous season, and even into this season. So that slide plate basically creating, so much less friction in terms of for your...
It's hard plastic on the inside of the pad. It slides like a hot damn. You want me to just put it succinctly?
Hey, there we go. Your Kevin sponsored moment brought to you by the Warrior G6 slide plate. So in terms of for your overall...
Like it literally is hard. It's hard plastic.
And you know what? If it's too much too, it's easily removable. It's just held on by two Velcro straps. So as Kevin's kind of showing there, he can kind of break into that knee stack and be able to actually pull that Velcro strap fully out. So that slide plate featured throughout their lineup, all the way down to their junior pad, which I do finally have in stock. So we'll jump around here a little bit and go straight to the junior, because this is one of the pads that I've seen the most upgrades on in terms of their entire lineup. Each pad is upgraded, don't get me wrong. That said, That slide plate is featured on the junior pad, which in my opinion is a great feature, especially for those kids that are learning those mechanics in terms of sliding. Need that a little bit of an extra boost to help see what that pad like can do, or what they can possibly can do in terms of for that slide back and forth. This is a great aid, great teaching tool potentially as well. And again, something exclusive to that Warrior G6 line.
Okay, so the slide plate goes all the way down from senior, intermediate, and into junior. Is it interchangeable amongst the three?
Senior, intermediate, and then it also includes pro. They're all the same size. Junior is a smaller plate, so the junior one will be the different of the two. Slide plates, again, been very hard to get a hold of. They are available aftermarket. We're hoping that some stock will be arriving soon, but we don't have an ETA date for them yet.
We said that about the Warrior G6 line overall for a year. We've got that in stock. Now listen, the slide plate can actually go on other brands. You can actually attach it to other brands. I have had this question from an NHL goaltender. Is it legal? Can I strap this on to my pads in the National Hockey League? They were curious. And the answer is no. It is not legal in the National Hockey League. So there you go. Asked and answered. What about the rest of the line? Like,
But for most of you that are watching and are listening,
you're not playing in the NHL.
so that was completely irrelevant information for you.
I just like it was just basically a humble brag that we had NHLers reaching out to us and asking. We won't name drop the actual name, but he's a Vezina candidate.
Kevin just flexing as usual. But that said, yes, it can fit on other pads. In terms of what pads it can fit off, we're still working. You know what? That's one video for another day, a comprehensive list of what ones will fit and what ones won't. That said, obviously there's more to the pad than just this G6 slide plate. They've redone the calf and feel-wise across all of their pads. A new place for you to actually strap down your knee strap. They've added the Velcro kind of inside the actual calf and leg plate itself. So just creating a cleaner wrap on the outside of the pad. Also, too, creating a bit more connectivity. So you're creating a bit tighter of a fit, even when you do strap your knee strap down to what we call it, like calf position, for example. So a bit of a different feel there. Warrior has also created an ability to customize your pad in terms of how tight you want that bottom calf strap to be, their main calf strap. So there's 2 slots in there. This is specifically on the junior pad as well, but it also is featured as you tier up through the lineup. Again, kind of moving back to the toe of the pad, they've lengthened the boot strap a little bit of a highlight of an area that was a bit on the tight side of things, especially in some of their older models, G5, G4, for example. So a little bit extra length here, a little bit easier to do up. They've still got their bungee toe system. No toe bridge on the junior pad. That is something that will be featured on the senior and the intermediate pads.
So if you want to go OG, like the original, how you do up your pads, you still have it on the senior and intermediate, but the junior is pretty much just the Warrior system.
Correct. And then again for this series here, you could go with laces, different bungee systems, other aftermarket parts that you have seen. So definitely a good call out that way as well.
Okay, overall profile, super thin thigh rise. Funny, we just did the True Catalyst PX3. We're talking about how thinned out that thigh rise is. We just put the G6 right next to it, and they basically have the same profile. The difference is where True thins out for that upper portion, this one is thin from the knee up.
That's correct. And
very stiff.
Yes, that's definitely worth calling out. I mean, we're weighing on this thing like as hard as we can, and we're not getting much flex out of it. Now the boot's quite flexible, which is good because you got to complement that kind of stiff style of pad, but especially for users that have been familiar with Warrior, especially
G5 line maybe had, some would argue, a little too much flex at the top of the pad.
Correct. Even in some, they had an option to kind of stiffen it up too as well. This is even stiffer than that. So once again, if you are looking for that stiff pad, you are definitely going to find it here in the Warrior for sure.
Okay, stiff and straight on that one. What else? The knee stack, obviously integrated to the thigh, like quite a stiff. You're going to get a lot of connection between the face of the pad and the knee stack. That's
Correct.
That's a feature that's been there for Warrior, sort of ahead of the curve a little bit with that knee wedge as well.
Correct. And again, that's giving you your stability when you're dropping down into the ice, and also keeping your pad sealed across the ice as well. So longtime staple of Warrior. Nothing's changing there for a good reason, because it didn't need to. Again, a little bit ahead of the curve in that sense.
Okay, so this is a quick refresh on the Warrior G6. If you want to get more information on the blockers and the gloves, the different models, the different options, the different closures, that was all included in our original Warrior G6 review. We'll have a link to that in here. The key today is they have it in stock, and that has been something that was difficult for a long time. Again, make sure you listen to the podcast. We'll explain some of the fun little details behind that.
So stay tuned for another video of the gloves and the blockers, because they do have their 2 lines. So we will hit that again once I have everything and once I can describe everything properly, because it's hard to talk about something when it's not here. So once that arrives, keep an eye out. We'll talk about it. If you have any questions further, though, you can give me a call, 604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790, or visit us at www.thehockeyshop.com.
Geez, at this point, you don't even really need me in these. That's well done, Cam.
Oh, that is pretty good.
Oh, now I am going to be paying attention to the gear segment every week, specifically dialed in for Tendy Fest news. The Warrior G6 line, we heard a lot about it. Awesome that people can get their hands on it. But this Tendy Fest idea, I'm trying to think of what my most memorable moment was, but I think it was just being able to go around and try on all the gloves. Like I'm like Woody, a glove guy, and being able to just walk around and work with all the manufacturers and put on the gloves was amazing. But all the gear was there.
I think my favorite part was just the 3 of us chatting with Tristan Jarry.
Yes,
because it's the most relaxed. He was totally relaxed, and I honestly haven't been able to get him that relaxed in an NHL rink or media environment since. Like, it was the best I've ever seen him talking about scoring goals, and so we gotta get Jarry back out because he was great. It's because you were there, Darren.
No, it was exceptional because he actually showed up and nobody really knew he was even there. Like, he was off to the side. He was talking to Hutch, and I'm like, this Jarry's right there. That's good. That was really neat. And now look where he is. And every time I watch him, Pittsburgh, I think of Tendy Fest, and maybe that'll be the same way with Arturs Silovs or Samuel Ersson. We have 2 feature interviews brought to you by Sensorina VR, Hutch.
It's February. We're on the west coast of Canada. I'm on Vancouver Island, and it is really nice outside. But one of the things that really bothers me about that is I can't have an outdoor rink. So I'm thinking I might just take the Sensorina, go stand in the backyard, put on that beautiful outdoor rink venue, and just pretend that I'm living the outdoor rink life. Can't stay out there till mom calls me in for dinner, and I can't be out there with all my buddies all night long, but I can still get that real outdoor rink experience on Sensorina. And that's one of the cool things about it, guys, is that it lets you do things you couldn't do otherwise. You can get on the ice whenever you want to get on the ice. You can ask for the drills that you want to have, the shooters that you want to have. You can tell them where to shoot. You're in control of your training with Sensorina, and it gives you an opportunity to train whenever you would like to. Like, one of the tough things about our sport is that you can't get out there on the ice every little minute you can, especially if you don't have that outdoor rink. Sensorina gives you that opportunity to take control of your training, to do it at home. It's an advantage you have over every other goalie out there that isn't part of that Sensorina crew. So I would strongly suggest everybody get out there and give it a try. If you already have the Oculus headset, you can get in there for 7 days for free. Great chance to see what you think. They've now got a lower tiered version and then a higher tiered version of the software so that you can get in a little bit more affordably if you're not sure about that full commitment. So check it out today, sensorina.com. If you do decide to, use the code IGM50 and you'll save a little bit more on top of whatever great deal they might have going on right now.
That code is IGM50.
Yeah, as in goal mag 50.
You know what else they let you do that nobody else can do?
Stop pucks. I actually stopped them.
There's that one for me too, although I don't know.
Feel your toes after you've been outside for 15 hours?
That's a good one. That's a good one. How about be Darren Millard?
Yes.
Because you can face.
Well, that's not hard to do.
Because you can
NHL
face
shooters.
NHL shooters. I mean, me and Hutch don't get to do that. You do, Darren, but we don't.
Darren gets all excited. Hey, I was at practice today. We can just say yes. So
was I. So was I.
Yeah.
Oh, you were
And I
a
didn't
part of
sweat.
practice. I just watched and judged with a sort of side glance as I watched everybody else practice.
I am the primary confidence builder of said Vegas Golden Knight forwards and defensemen.
That's a great title.
Yeah, that's
Vegas
what I
Golden
do.
Knights primary confidence builder. Darren
That's
Millard.
what I do when they're coming back from injury. I get out there. So we've got a Swede, we've got a Latvian, we've got a longer conversation with Arturs Silovs, and a little brief catch up with Samuel Ersson. I'll give you your choice. Which one you want to go to first, Woody?
Let's go with Ersson first because it's a shorter conversation. One I fully enjoyed, and like you said, Darren and Hutch said, hopefully we can catch up longer with him. Time just didn't permit here. It's tough, right? This is the reality of their time and post drink. Yeah. It's hard to sort of get the long sit downs. So I think we're going to start throwing these into the mix though, because when it got cut off around 5 minutes, it's like, what do you do with it? Do you run it? It's not enough for a feature interview, but there's a couple of really great little clips in here, and I think it's important we share that. He was really good. I really enjoyed meeting him, and the other one too. After we wrapped up, Felix Sandstrom is there as well, another Swedish goalie who's worked with Pekka Alsson, been part of the Brynäs, as I call him, the Swedish goalie mafia, and I hope to get to catch up with him too. We didn't get to on this trip, but a little bit of a back and forth between the three of us after the mics were off. Just hard to get those longer times. So some great guys with some great thoughts on goaltending. And even if it's an abbreviated version, really happy to bring this to the InGoal radio audience.
Teaming up with Carter Hart in that Philadelphia Flyer crease, an evolving position. And we're starting to get to know these guys, starting with Samuel Ersson, one of the two feature interviews this week on InGoal Radio, the podcast brought to you by Sense Arena VR.
Wanted to ask you a little bit, what's been the biggest adjustment this year for you coming over? I mean, there's probably a lot of adjustments. What's been the biggest adjustment coming up to this level in your mind?
I got here last year, but had a pretty rough year. I was injured most of the season, and so this year was really the first year I'm actually playing, and I mean it's different. The players a lot quicker, and especially in. Also from the from Sweden where I played before to North America, it's the faster pace out there. Things happen a lot quicker, and I would say up to this level 2, guys are so skilled they can make something out of nothing. So you always got to be ready.
Is it the style of game that's different? You mentioned the skill. Obviously, the rink's smaller. Talked to a lot of guys that come over and they just feel like there's more time. Whereas everything's on top of you here. Is it what do you think the bigger adjustment? The style or the size of the rink, or is it a combination?
It's a combination. It's also the size of the rink. It forces more mistake out of players because they have smaller areas to work on. So that's things happen a lot quicker. They can throw in pucks from anywhere. Whereas when players have the puck on the boards in the SHL, they're not really a threat. You could practically stand up straight. So that's something that is different. And I mean, you got to make adjustment, but at the same time, I feel like I like this style of play. I feel like a lot of goalies do. You get to be more involved. I feel like the play is always closer to you. Whereas in Sweden, there can be games where it feels like you have done nothing for 60 minutes.
In terms of tactics, I'm guessing technically it doesn't change what you do in terms of entries and exits off the post, but tactics change a little bit in terms of the amount of time. Do you have to be, say, for example, in a reverse earlier here because it can come at you so quick, whereas in Sweden there might be time to sort of pop up and recover defeat. Are those the types of changes you have to adjust to as a goal?
Yeah, definitely a little bit. But at the same time, I feel like I try to be on my feet as much as possible. I feel like that's kind of where I put the foundation in my play is being a lot on the feet and being able to move on the feet. So, but obviously things after shots that go wide and everything, you see here, defensemen they aim almost outside of the net, so they want to get the bounce in front. So that's things you got to be ready for, and you got to do what you normally do, but at a much quicker pace.
And they're almost like recovery to the post is just automatically a default, probably down a little more in those types of instances than you might be back home.
Yeah, definitely. And also, like if you want to play on the laces, or if you want to play on your skate blade when you hit the post, I feel like before maybe years ago I played more to my skates, but I feel like here where the puck is where it's around the net, the guys are just trying to throw it in there, so you got to be able to try to close that out, and that's why I try to play more to my laces nowadays.
So when you like toe box, like the bottom of the pad.
Yeah.
There's a great example. There's different ways to do a reverse. There's different ways to execute post seal. Making that adjustment, like it's probably a good lesson here for young goalies. That adjustment from skate blade to toe box. How'd you rep that out? How'd you get comfortable with that?
Just put in a lot of reps. I had goalie coaches and goalies I work with back home who were really good at that and who have made that adjustment themselves. So that's something you just got to put your work into it, and you'll get comfortable with time.
Can you share some of the guys you work with? Like we hear a lot about sort of the upbringing from the Swedish goaltending side, goalie coaches at a young age. We've had the pleasure of having Thomas Magnuson on the show before and talking to him about sort of the plan over there. What was your experience like when you started playing goal? When did you end up with your first goalie coach, and can you walk us through that progression?
I had a goalie coach. I like when at a young age you don't really have that in close by. So I went to they had a goalie school every Saturday morning, 8:00 in the morning. So my dad used to drive me. It was half an hour drive, 8 in the morning every Saturday. So that was thinking just what parents do for you. But yeah, I went there, and it was just a goalie coach who did a lot of skating with big groups of goalies from around the area. And I feel like that's where you kind of a lot of skating. And then I had the pressure. I worked with Per-Erik Alsen in Brynäs, who's probably one of the most best goalie coaches of all time. Where you look at the goalies he's had come through, he has Markstrom, Felix, me, Jonas Johansson, and Anders Lindbäck, and Jocke Eriksson, a lot of goalies who's come through that school. So, and then after that, I had lots of Johan Holmqvist, who works with Markstrom and Jonas Johansson. So I got to practice with them this summer, and great. You pick up something from everyone. No one is going to be able to reshape you completely, but they can everyone can give you something, and it's up to you to kind of pick up those tools that you want and put it in your little toolbox, and then keep moving and keep evolving.
Anything in particular? Like, can you, without giving anything away, anything, like give me an example if you can think of one, like say working with Jacobs or something he did that you're like, hey, I hadn't thought of it that way. I might try this a little differently.
I would say maybe not. I had another goalie coach here, Micke Andreasson, who worked also with Markstrom, and like the biggest thing for when I worked with him was scaling down my game. I was, which I feel like a lot of goalies are when they're younger. You're aggressive. You want to take a lot of ice, and you move around a lot. And that was really like scaling down the game and finding the comfort, like being comfortable working with your post. And also when you hit the post, be able to get clean stops so you don't have over rotation and something that you have to compensate with. Also, you see like a lot of goalies when they're down, hit the butterfly into the post, and they have over rotation, so they have to compensate with the other leg and
those back. So they hit it hard enough that they're spinning out almost.
Exactly. So you have to be able to get clean stops. Yeah, clean stops. So you can move and be in balance. There's a lot of like core being comfortable, and then there can be quick in and out of your post.
Working with Dilly, coming over and working with Kim Dillabaugh and being around Carter and Felix. Anything change in terms of the lessons there, or are you just applying them a little differently over here? Is there anything that jumps out in terms of adjustments you've made under those guys?
I mean, I think you keep on scaling it down a little bit sometimes, and just being more patient in certain situations, being patient on my feet, but also being patient once you're down on the ice. So you're not something Dila talks about, like trying to avoid unnecessary pop-ups where you just get up to basically go down again. So that's something I'm working on.
And like you said, the nature of the quick back, like everybody's trying to jam it back. You break a seal when you don't need to. Pucks end up in nets over here.
Exactly.
Perfect. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Little bit of a primer with Samuel Ersson. And now we get to introduce everybody to Arturs Silovs, who really jumped onto the scene in the last couple of weeks from a major media exposure standpoint, Woody.
Yeah, no, NHL debut, Thatcher Demko out. They sent Spencer Martin back down to play some games, get his confidence back, and they wanted to give Arturs a couple starts. Thatcher ended up, I actually don't think Arturs was supposed to get the second start. I could be wrong there. I think Thatcher was supposed to come back and back up against the Flyers last night. He wasn't able to. So that meant they keep Delia and Arturs. They give Arturs another start, and he gets his first National Hockey League win. I would argue he actually probably popped onto the scene a little more at the World Championship, had a really good showing for Latvia. I think he lost 1-0 to Sweden. They were outshot badly, had a couple dubs over at the World Championship. So just 21 years old. And all this despite barely playing in the last 2 years. The Canucks did not find him a place to play 2 years ago. Last season, they didn't get him down to the East Coast Hockey League till late in the season. I think he's only played like 20 some odd games over the last 2 seasons combined. Done a lot of work in practice. He talks about that, all the different voices he's had. Curtis Sanford, Ian Clark, Marco Terranius now, as well as some of the input he had from Latvia. So we just went, we took 20 minutes and we went through his career, congratulated him on the start. And as I said, first goalie to win a National Hockey League game after wearing InGoal magazine equipment in a NHL training camp.
What I love about this conversation is you following up with what it was like to step into the National Hockey League and how the game was different. What was different about the American Hockey League to the National Hockey League? And he gives a really descriptive answer. Arturs Silovs, the second feature interview on InGoal Radio, the podcast.
First NHL start, a couple nights later, first NHL win. What are the emotions after a night like that?
They're great, playing in the strongest league in the world. It's always been a dream. And it's like a really big excitement to play here.
What were there nerves the first night? Like just doing something new for a first time. You played pro even before you came overseas, but it's different. How'd you manage that?
I think just practicing a lot. Then I got a couple of opportunities to play in American Hockey League, East Coast, it was
World Championships,
yeah.
Big stage.
Yeah, it was everything was building up. And even this season I played a lot of games in American Hockey League. And now the first game in NHL, wasn't easy, different style of the game, skilled guys. But, I think it's just the same, in any league. You just have to build until you're getting comfortable in the league.
Walk me through your pregame routine that allows you to treat it the same. Guys have different things they do so that even when the situation changes or the league changes, there's just something that gives them a foundation. What's yours? How do you get ready for a game? Is there anything you do? I know I've seen the juggling on social media, but is there anything else you do mentally to sort of set yourself in that space?
Not really. I'm just, stretching, taking my time, I think it's more about getting early in the rink. So it's all the atmosphere around you is preparing you and just getting into it.
Okay, so early in the rink, a couple hours, 3 hours, or you got a routine you do, dynamic warm-up, juggling, anything you can share that, maybe for a young kid out there, young goalies, is maybe going into a stage for the first time or something new for the first time, just helps them get ready physically so they know they're prepared for the game.
I think stretching probably is a lot, you don't want to get injured.
Of course.
So it's I think that's the most important thing to do, before the games, before the practices. It's you don't want to be out, for a long time because it's your life and you want to build here, you want to build your career, right?
The adjustment you mentioned to the NHL, you said the game's different. In what way? How did you have to adjust maybe tactically as a goalie at this level? Is it the speed? Is it the shooters? A little bit of everything?
I think it's a little bit of everything. Like, they have better looks here. They're like seeing the lanes or they can pass and they're like quicker making decisions. So it's like you have to be more patient with them.
Patient with your reads? Like, is that
Yeah, being patient in the position, being patient with your reads. You have to acknowledge that there's like a guy at back door. So it's like, he has like two options, shoot or back door.
how do you get better at reading the game? Is it just experience? Or like you a big video guy? Like, was there anything you did with Clarkie or on your own to sort of prepare for your first time against the New York Rangers, the Artemi Panarins, the Mika Zibanejads of the world?
I think it's like all around overall, like videos for sure help a lot, watching the hockey live, like on TV, and like it's always about the reads, right? And I think it's just like, you're playing like around like a lot of stages. So you can see what the players are doing, like similar.
It's just like experience. Yeah. So you know what to look for.
Yeah.
When you mentioned watching TV, I'm just curious. Like I know some guys, I remember Thatcher when he was younger told me he used to keep a notebook. Like when do you watch a lot of hockey? Do you watch a lot of games of the NHL?
Yeah, I do watch. Like I like to watch it, It's like always nice to see what they're gonna do, something creative, as a goalies as well, like or players.
Do you watch it just like as a fan, or are you trying to look for some of the things like are you taking notes, so to speak, mentally?
I never been a fan on any team. I'm just like more like, just looking, maybe I can take something from that, maybe adjust, maybe I like it, try it in your own practice.
Is that something you've done for like, you still do it now? You're in the NHL, you still do it?
For sure. I think there's a long road to be. It's like, it's only the beginning. So
have you done that a long time? Like, did you actually, we can go back a little bit. Like, did you grow up watching NHL or did you grow up watching other goalies back home?
I was watching more KHL because I was like Dynamo Riga played, right? So, but then after I was like, when I was get older, like 14, 15, I started to watch NHL. And then I got more to the NHL than watching KHL.
Okay, so who'd you like to watch and why?
From a goalies or a team?
Well, give me goalies.
Vasilevsky.
That's not a bad choice.
Yeah, Lundqvist. Because, he was a really good goalie, Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good choices, both those guys. So let me ask you then, you talked about watching him. Is there something I can take? Is there anything you remember, whether it's Lundqvist or Vasilevsky or any other guy, where you're like, hey, that looks new to me, and you went out on the ice the next day and maybe tried it?
Maybe a small things, but like not a big impact because like every single goalie is different, right?
Of course.
Every single's body is different. Like everyone has like different strong sides. So you have to be careful what you're picking for. And that's why you're like only trying a little bit. If it works, it works. If not, then not, You're sticking to yourself.
I remember talking to Cam Talbot. He played with Henrik Lundqvist in New York. Actually, at the time, he was with the Rangers. And I asked him about that, like taking something from Henrik Lundqvist. And I think he paraphrasing, but he basically said nobody can play like Henrik Lundqvist. What'd you love about watching him? Like the patience?
Yeah, like I think he was like really patient, Like even he wasn't the biggest guy, right? Like managing to like stop the pucks, like doing all that kind of stuff. It's like it's really impressive.
Okay, so I want to go back to the roots a little bit here. 6th Latvian goalie to ever play in the NHL. What does that mean to you?
I actually really didn't knew that, but I think it's great. Being like on those numbers, like it's always like great feeling. Like not too many players from Latvia played in the NHL, and it's like big honor, honoring my own country.
Are there guys that you've gotten to know along the way? Like obviously we've got a really good relationship with Elvis. Gotten to know him over the years at InGoal. Were there guys you looked up to as you were coming up that, from home that you saw making this step that made you think, hey, this is something I can do too?
I wasn't like really thinking about it. I was just, just working hard, just being patient and like trying to capitalize my opportunities.
Did you ever get a chance to skate with those guys in the summer or anything where you had that contact point with somebody who had made that jump that sort of helped you, sort of maybe learn something from them or take lessons?
Yeah, like we had like pre-qualification for Olympics. There was like Girgensons, couple like NHL guys, and I was like, like small samples, but still it's like next level, right? So it was, I think, great experience for me to be in that camp and like getting those shots in, you know.
We talk a lot about like so much is made of like right now Russian goaltending, right? Like it's sort of the hot Swedish goaltending before that, Henrik Lundqvist. Finnish before that, Mika Kiprasov. I'm basically dating myself here. I'm really old, so I've been around for all those influxes. We hear a lot about the programs that they have, for young goalies. What was your experience? How did Arturs Silovs become a goalie? And what was like growing up? When did you start playing? When did you get your first coach? Walk me through your development path.
Actually, I was a player first.
For how long?
Like for a couple of years, like 3-4 years. And then I switched to the goalie. So, like everyone was trying to be a goalie because we didn't really have goalies. I tried it. It was pretty good for me. So,
okay, so how old and what did you love about it?
I was like, I think like 7-8 years old, I believe.
And you'd already been playing player for 3-4 years.
Yeah.
You started early.
Yeah. I was like 3 years old. And that was good for me because like we didn't really had a good team. And I was like probably one of the worst teams. But
see lots of shots.
Yeah, so it was like a lot of shots, It was fun. Like, I mean, if you think now, it wouldn't be fun, how many goals you let in back then. But like for the like progression, it's like really good one.
When did you get your first goalie coach? Like, when did was there an age where you started to get more structure as opposed to just going out there and, like you said, having fun and learning on your own, which has a lot of value too?
No, I had a goalie coach
right away.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he really taught me a lot of stuff. Like I know there's like simple stuff, but it's like, what do you really need as a kid? Like, because I think when you're a kid, you don't need to overthink too much stuff. It's like the same thing. Like learning kids a power play when they're like 9 years old, why they need that, right? So because they don't know what kind of players they are.
So give me an example. A lot of just like skating, basic movement stuff.
Yeah, just like just controlling rebounds, maybe like simple movements. Just stopping, like T pushes.
Because much like a kid on a power play, why do you need to learn reverse VH when you're 7?
Yeah, you can't actually cover a lot. That's the problem, right? And like net is so huge, like your reverse track wouldn't really help. And like you're too short to even touch the post from both sides.
Be lucky to get those legs into the middle of the net, let alone all the way across.
Yeah.
So as you come up and play back home and play in the junior leagues and the MHL, how did your game develop? Like when did you start sort of getting some of that more technical instruction?
I think like for me, I got more technical for sure when I came to Vancouver. That's like 100% like
life with Clarkie and Sandman and
yeah. But because before that I wasn't that technical. I was like more like athletic goalie, But here they helped me a lot to be more compact, be like technical, right? So I can use like my athleticism like as a last result, right?
Not go to it too early.
Yeah, not jumping on every single puck.
That's an easy thing to say. That can be a hard thing to learn. Walk me through that process a little bit. Like getting to the point where you rely more on the foundation and less on that sort of emergency stuff.
I think it's just because we're doing like every single day. It's already like a habit, and then it's like, you start to see it's like it's working in the games, and then you're like starting to trust that process, and then you understand, you like trust your foundation. You're like, okay, I have to build it every single day. So we're playing a lot, so I know in the game I'm comfortable with what I'm doing, and I'm not really thinking what I do.
What was the biggest adjustment? Like there's a lot of things, and we've seen it here, and it's not just you. Like Colin, for example, comes in. He'd probably never use that sort of shuffle track down. Probably never used a reverse track. Like these are new. What was the biggest one for you to learn?
For me, I think it's like quick shuffles, probably.
Sort of play coming down the wing and you're using those quick feet.
Yeah. Because I didn't really have like quick feet. I was like more like trying to cover everything. So I think just adjusting the speed. Like I had speed, but I needed to move it in the right direction.
Use it differently.
Yeah. And I think that's most important to understand where do you need that and where you don't need that.
Multiple stance system. I know that Ian likes. So you're sort of tall and narrow, which facilitates those shuffles. Was that something, an adjustment for you too, to sort of learn sort of where on the ice to be in what sort of position?
Yeah, for sure. It was like a huge helper for me. Like even let's say it's like penalty kills, it's like helps a lot. Like high stances, like you can see at least where they're passing, maybe shot movement. Like because if you're like low stance, you can't see anything and you're guessing. You're not going to be a great goalie, right? And like you don't want to be like, okay, hopefully someone blocked it, right? Here, guys can shoot, they can like get it in the net.
Is there a worse feeling than losing the puck when it's out at the point?
Yeah, I think it's the worst thing. Like, if you don't see the puck, I think it's like you have to find it straight away, or at least find a player who's like showing he shoots. So you have like sort of understanding, you can react on something.
So in showing he's just looking for signs they're shooting, even if you can't see the puck, like hand position, head, stuff like that.
Yeah. Because like you can't see puck every time because there's like so much traffic. Could be someone tries to block a shot, you can't see their release, which is like really hard to react after. So you have to be like really careful about it.
Are there any things you look for other than the shot? So say you can't see a shot coming, and it hit, I think the worst things, and we track them statistically, they're called broken plays. They hit a body in front. Like if it hits you, at least you felt it and you know where it's going. When it hits somebody else and you don't know where it's going, how do you find it? Do you look for cute clues? Like, are you looking to see where the players are looking? Like, how do you find, is there any tips you can give young goalies that are in the same spot? Man, I lost the puck. How do I find it?
I think it's just about the tracking. Most important thing, like just to see, like if you even there's the rebound, you just have to find the puck first. Like if you're not finding it first, they're gonna find it first and put it in the net.
So it's just about finding that puck. I just wanted to, sometimes you can find cues by where they're looking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You see them going to a spot. Does that help?
But I don't really trust that.
It's not what you're doing.
Yeah.
Any tips for looking over traffic? Any sort of guidelines that you have for looking around, looking over, finding pucks through those bodies? You're 6'4", so you get to look over, but do you pick a side on a shoulder? Do you try and make sure you're not square behind them? Any advice for kids there?
I think I prefer looking more short side because like usually far side is blocked, usually by the traffic and the bodies, but you never know, you know. There's like a lot of stuff you have to be careful, and like I think every single one has like different approach to the traffic. Someone is like looking between the legs, between the armpits, right? A lot of guys who are like much taller, they're looking just over everyone. They can see it and they play like that. It's like just different play style.
Okay, so I got to ask you, we got into the adjustments to Clarkey and coming over here to Vancouver. You did spend some time in the OHL. Billy Smith, what'd you learn from him? Did you know who Billy Smith was? Did you know the legend of Billy Smith before you went there?
No, I didn't even know.
Did you figure it out while you were there?
Yeah.
How'd you figure that one out?
Like I just Googled it.
Okay, and what comes up?
The goalie for New York Islanders.
The battling Billy Smith.
Yeah.
Any lessons you took from him? Like jokes aside about his, his career as probably the toughest one of the toughest goalies that ever played. But what were some of the lessons you took away from your time with him? As a guy with multiple Stanley Cups, that spent a lot of time in the NHL, played a different style. But was there anything you could still take away from that?
I think we were more working with the like stick, stick control. We didn't like really do much like
not deep technical stuff.
Yeah, it's like more about stick. So
stick on puck, steering, control.
Yeah.
Where else you can put that stick to maybe get somebody out of the way?
Yeah.
Your work over here with Sandman, Curtis Sanford, last couple here for you, Arturs. What was your experience like with Curtis last year in the American Hockey League? What are some of the things you remember the most about getting that chance to work with him? I know you weren't there the whole time, and I know that's part of one of the challenges probably last 2 years. You didn't get to play a whole bunch, but sometimes that means a lot of practice time. How'd your game develop under Curtis?
I think we worked a lot with like traffic management, tracking, like all the small things, like basically all the technique I needed to build to play pro. I was doing that.
Getting organized.
Yeah. Like all the small, like they're like small things, but like in overall they're like huge, like game difference, right?
Is there anything one that jumps out? Like there's so many technical details that I see goalies here develop and add to their game. Is there any one that for you becomes, like if I ask you what's your foundation, what would you say?
Foundation?
Kind of two different questions, I guess, maybe, because some are smaller pieces and some is like...
I think probably just stance adjustment.
That's a big one, eh?
Yeah, it's like, I think it helps a lot, at least for me. like because when you can be like more like mobile, where you have to be like more like reactive. So it just depends on the situation.
Marco this year. I'm another new voice. It's never easy for a goalie. New voices. Marco Terranius, different guy. Some time in the KHL for him too. He comes over this year. What was that relationship like? Was there anything different about that approach for you?
I think he helped me a lot with getting more like compact. Being like
Define compact for me. Just not opening holes.
not being too spread around, being like holding my ground stronger, like
Patience.
yeah, like even on the tips being like more square. So I think it's like big improvement for me.
When you say tips and being more square, give me an example of what you mean by that. Like not sliding and moving too much in them, just sort of shifting.
Yeah, just shifting. Yeah.
Sometimes that's easy to say, hard to do. How do you get to be a shifter and not moving too much? Lots of work, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Any drills you can share with us?
Um,
I'm drilling you big time on the goalie stuff here, but we're geeking out on goalie stuff.
I think just like tips from the blue line, it's just like tips overall, like any kind of tips is gonna help.
What's your rule of thumb? Are you trying to get as close to that guy tipping it as possible without chasing? Close to the tip point without sliding? What's the...
There's like a lot of stuff. Sometimes I just try to react because I trust my reaction time. So mostly I try to react because like if I can do less movement and like just react and that's gonna help me, just not overcommit and be like, okay, I stopped the puck and like I can do the next move.
Last one. E-Flex 6, what do you like? Like this brand new set, you said one practice and into a game.
They're pretty good. I think bounce a lot. That's nice for me. And otherwise, I think it's pretty good.
Thank you, Arturs.
Thank you.
The best part, not the best part, but it's one of the great parts of InGoal Radio, the podcast, is being introduced to these athletes, and now you can follow them along. And Jeremy Swayman is a great example. I didn't know of Jeremy Swayman that well. All of a sudden, he pops on the podcast, and now he and I are best friends. We do the goalie hug, the Linus Ullmark hug, whenever we see each other. It's beautiful, and I've got a great friend thanks to the introduction by Woody and Hutch. So we'll follow along with Silovs and Ersson, and then also keep track of old friends Yaroslav Halak. How about Halak's season?
Yeah, up until last night, he lost in overtime against was it Edmonton or was it Calgary? I got confused. Calgary. He lost in overtime against Calgary.
Yeah.
7 in a row to that point, and that means I wanted him to get that OT win last night. He is within 7 of the magic 300 marker, and that means a lot to him. We know that for everyone who's listened to the InGoal Radio podcast. He's playing really well. I mean, it's ironic. Vancouver is still paying him for his bonuses overage last year against their cap. And people here in Vancouver were like, oh, he struggled here. I'm like, no, the team kind of sucks for goalies, man. And now he's in New York and he's killing it. His adjusted numbers are right there with Igor Shesterkin, obviously playing less games. He's playing really well, and he was a really good guest for our pro reads. If you're an InGoal Magazine premium member, you can check it out online now. Our pro reads, the first of many with Yaroslav Halak, and a really interesting take on the way he uses paddle down on a cross-ice situation to actually get better rotation with his shoulders and prop up his upper body. We always think a paddle down is purely about taking away the 5-hole. Yarrow uses it as a leverage point to get his shoulders up and his chest up, and to sort of, by bringing the stick around, it creates rotation into that chance across the ice. Just something I'd never thought about in terms of a philosophy or mindset, and he breaks it down really well with the video on this pro read. So if you're a member, go check it out at ingoalmag.com. If you're not a member, what the hell are you waiting for? It's a great video breakdown with Yaroslav Halak. We have a new one every week. We also have a pro drills with Magnus Hellberg and Billy Huso and Alex Westland of the Detroit Red Wings on the ice with them. Some drills. We always talk about patience. How do you build patience? Well, one way to build patience is with a couple of the drills that Magnus Hellberg walks us through and explains, including a 60% rule. In terms of watching the puck and not reacting until it's 60% of the way there, something he says he learned while he was with the New York Rangers and Henrik Lundqvist.
I'm trying to think of 60% there and then trying to move.
I go 60% before the shot's released.
Yes. I'm 60 seconds.
I stopped 60% of the shots.
That's high for me.
I'm making my decision on save selection when they get across the other team's blue line to try and be in the right spot.
Oh,
that's amazing. 60%.
You didn't mean 60% of the way up the ice?
Yeah. That's unbelievable.
Speaking of that one, Darren, when my kid was about 6 years old, we didn't live where we do now. We came to this town for a tournament. And I could still remember it because it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Whenever Maddie's team carried the puck across center ice, the opposing goaltender would very deliberately get down on hands and knees across the goal line, and then lay down the body from post to post.
Nice.
And just watch this player come in, because I know at age 4, you're not getting it over me.
Yeah. That's
and
pretty
so
smart.
We moved to the town. It is. And then we moved to the town, and I asked around. I said, who was the kid? Who was the kid? I got to meet him. They're like, I don't know. We had a lot of kids who did that. So there maybe, they're always talking. We shouldn't be teaching these kids NHL techniques. We got to teach them what their body's good for. Maybe there's some crazy goalie coach around here who's teaching 4 and 5 year olds. That's the way you got to play the game at your age.
Well, hey, speaking of that, Arturs Silovs. Well, how about that lesson? Talking about the simple stuff, and like you wouldn't teach a 7-year-old how to run a power play. Why are you can't teach a 7-year-old to do reverse track? It's just skating and moving and shuffling and all that type of stuff. So I thought that was really interesting from Arturs.
Reverse track for a 7-year-old. He's like, they can't get their feet. No.
Hey, we can't forget the fun in the game too, though, right?
Yeah.
Because I guarantee there's 7-year-olds out there on their skateboards trying to figure out the moves of the greatest pros. And maybe they're not ready for it, but they still want to try it. So if you're coaching, let's not be too dogmatic here. Let's let the kids have a little fun and explore too.
Okay, Hutch. I will do that.
Don't ruin all the fun. Don't ruin all the fun, Woody.
I have fun. I try and get into a reverse track too, and usually it's kind of like
you just can't get out of it.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Just an acknowledgement, because I had a chance to talk to him this past week on the Chirp podcast. Derek Lalonde, I didn't realize was a goaltender until I started doing some research into his background. Is he the only former goaltender that's a current NHL head coach?
Obviously, Patty Waugh before.
Jeff Blashill?
Yeah. Was Jared Bednar wasn't a goalie. For some reason,
No.
I thought he had links to goaltending somewhere in his background. But you're right. Like, I mean, it's certainly not a lot. I mean, ex-goalies make the best broadcasters. We know that 100%.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's a fair point. There aren't many. And it's certainly a smart move for Derek Lalonde, because if you're just going to be a goalie coach, chances are you're going to be the lowest paid guy on the staff. You might as well be a head coach.
He doesn't even get involved in anything, the goaltending side of it. Nothing. He says he's so far removed from it, doesn't understand what Westland everybody is doing. So it's pretty cool though to be able to talk to him about the goaltending side of it. That's outstanding. Hey Hutch, good to be back with you, buddy.
Good to have you here. I'm not going to lie. I had fun doing my best, not very good imitation of your job, but it was a lot of fun sitting in that chair for a little while. Thanks for letting me keep it warm.
I love it. I listened to, and I was very appreciative. And somebody else could urge Woody along. One more
I just
question.
need to do about 120,000 more of these, and I'll have your experience and be as good as you.
How about Woody during the dressing room interviews today? Was it the Silovs where you were like, I know we got to go. I know, like you're acknowledging everybody in the dressing room. I know we got to go.
I looked up and I looked over at the PR director, because I looked up and at first I look up and I'm like, oh crap, I'm the only media guy left in the room. And I noticed that the volume had gone up significantly around me. I don't know, Hutch, if there's a lot of work.
Oh, I can tell in the edit.
As you're editing that file, there might have been some non-PG language amongst the chirps that were flying around the room.
They will not be heard. They will not.
I was
be heard,
like,
I'm afraid,
I was
folks.
thinking to myself, like, it got really loud, and I'm like, and there's a lot of chirps going back and forth, and I'm like, oh, I look up, I'm like, oh crap, I'm the only media guy, and half of them don't even, either they feel comfortable enough that I'm there, or they don't even see I'm there because they're in full, horse around mode. And I look over at the PR director, and I'm like, I'm done. I realize what I've done here,
And still asked one more though.
Yeah. Hey, listen,
Of course he
I
did.
really had 3 more, because the next 2 were going to be Can we talk about the equipment I loaned you? Because we've talked about it before, just so we get that officially on the record. And the other one was in his first NHL win last night. He broke a stick trying to handle a puck. He went to push the puck, like make a pass, and the stick broke down. I don't know if it broke at the shaft paddle intersection or in the paddle, but he recognized it right away, sort of got the puck out of the way. I don't know, I can't remember he kicked or whatever, but he immediately discarded the stick to the corner and didn't have a stick. Now the play went down the other end. Luke Schenn comes off the bench with his stick and one for Arturs, brings the stick to Arturs, turns around to get back in the play. The Canucks score while he's doing it. Luke Schenn gets a plus on his record. He was plus 5 last night. One of the pluses was him bringing a stick to Arturs. Haven't seen that very often. Like a guy actually come off the bench with a stick for the goalie, bring it to him, and then go to join the rush. Secondly, I meant to ask Arturs, did you realize you can play with a broken stick and you're the only one on the ice that's allowed to? So that I'm going to have to ask him next time. Clearly he wasn't familiar with the rule, or the way it broke meant it was useless to him anyways. But yeah, either way, I thought that was an interesting moment. Nothing like adding a few extra nerves to your first NHL win by having to do it for moments without a stick.
I didn't know a player could bring the goalie a stick.
They can.
I thought that was illegal.
The players are allowed. They don't have to put down theirs. They're the only ones that are allowed
but
to carry
two. But they can't play the puck while they've got two sticks in their hand. That's it.
They also can't stop. Like if they pick up a stick from the bench, for example, and bring it out to the player, if they then see, oh, play's coming my way, drop the goalie stick and engage, they can't do that either. They have to go all the way and finish the delivery.
Wow.
And
I got that from a referee recently.
That worked out quite nicely for Luke Schenn. Like I said, basically got a plus on his plus minus for handing Arturs Silovs a stick while the Canucks were at the other end scoring.
Good. I love it. Luke's a good guy. Thanks, Hutch. Thanks, Woody. And thank you for listening to InGoal Radio, the podcast.